Hello, everybody. It's Henry Varela with the ID My Athlete podcast. We want to wish everybody a happy new year. And, today we have with us, it's a familiar face. It's somebody that we did one of our first podcasts, actually the first podcast that we ever did on the ID My Athlete podcast. New Mexico native, Rio Rancho native, and current Fort Lewis Skyhawk men's soccer player, who's a sophomore at Fort Lewis College, and that's Kaden Schufft. How are you doing today, Kaden?
How are you?
I'm doing well, my man. The holidays treat you well? Everything going good? Being home?
Oh yeah, it's nice getting a little break.
Yeah, I bet. Getting some time to spend with the family and kind of unwind and probably look back on, kind of what you've done this past fall and stuff. So it's definitely good to see you, Kaden. And once again, thank you for joining us on this. But Kaden, we definitely wanted to have you back on the podcast because it's hard to even believe this, but you just completed your second year of soccer, right? I know you're in the middle of your sophomore year in terms of school of everything, but you literally just completed your second season as a Fort Lewis Skyhawk. And the main thing, and when we're going to talk about this past season and the great season that you had and the Fort Lewis Skyhawks. But the main thing I really wanted to kick off with you, Kaden, is, you headed off to Durango, right? To start college over a year ago. Tell us about that. How was it, leaving Rio Rancho and heading up into Durango and starting college at Fort Lewis?
It was good. Me personally, I was a big homebody, so it was a big change for me going up to college and going up early to start training. And that was kind of my life up there when I got up there. It was just training twice a day. Didn't really contact my parents because I was so busy. But it was good. It was definitely a change that I needed. It has shaped me into the person I am today. I'm very different from what I was 2 years ago. So
Yeah, and what's funny with that is don't worry about being a homebody, Kaden, because that's always been me as well. So I always get told that about my family. So, but it's like you said, it's being able to get out there and really just see outside of, like you said, being away from the parents, being away from everything, and really, it's like starting your life anew, right? And like you said, specifically with soccer and things like that, and before we get into the soccer, like you said, obviously, and I want the athletes to get a good point of view of that difference between, high school and club and, being in that realm, having your parents and family behind you majority of the time to heading off to college. And like you said, a lot of your time as a student athlete at the collegiate level, you were very busy. And I assume one of those other things that kept you busy was your school part, right? Balancing everything as a student athlete. Tell us, before, like I said, before we jump into the soccer part, what did you do to really balance that school and soccer part as a collegiate student athlete?
it was tough. I had to take a lot of time out of my day, usually at night, late at night, to try to get my studies done. As much as I didn't want to. But yeah, it's very difficult to try to balance those two things, but you just got to stay motivated and you got to get yourself to do it sometimes when you don't want to. But yeah.
And what was your motivating factor? What kept you motivated to push through the challenges?
Well, I mean, we have to have a 3.4 higher on the team, so that definitely pushed me. Just my degree up in college was it's a difficult degree to accomplish, so I just kind of knew I had to stay on top of it. If I get caught behind, then it's gonna be rough for the rest of the semester. So
And then that'll definitely keep you motivated. What are you getting your degree in? What are you working towards?
biology in med school.
Good for you, man. Good. Yeah. So you definitely, this wasn't a, university studies type of deal where it's all basics kind of going through. You're going all out. And I tell you what, Kaden, that's where I commend you. And I appreciate your honesty because I think once again, when athletes at the high school level, and those age groups, club, everything, I think sometimes it's, I want to play college sports. I want to do this and that, but it's that really looking deep down, right? There's that athletic ability and being able to do this, but there's just so much more to being a collegiate student athlete. And thank you for your honesty in that, just because I think it's good for the athletes to know you got to have fun in college. I'm sure you had a lot of fun, but the thing is that a lot of your time is going to be spent in your books, your studies, and then on the field. So, and kind of jumping into that, Kaden, obviously, like I said, you just completed your second year, but to give everybody a point of view of your first year of soccer, right? I'm going to kind of throw a couple stats at you that I pulled up from the Fort Lewis website, and then we're going to kind of chat about that. But, I think first and foremost as a freshman, right? Last year when you came in as a freshman, and this goes D1, D2, D3, NAIA level a lot. It's pretty rare that freshmen have the opportunity or earn the opportunity, I should say, to play a lot of minutes in the game. A lot of times it's that learning part of that first season, playing under the upperclassmen, those who've been there and stuff. But your first year as a Fort Lewis Skyhawk, Kaden, out of the 17 games played, you played in all 17, but you ended up starting 16 of 17 games. And you played the most minutes out of any player on the team, whether freshman to senior to fifth year, whatever it is, 1,465 minutes in the season. And of course, for those who don't know, have never really, followed Kaden or know, Kaden's a center back. And I believe you've played some other positions as well. But, Kaden has always been known through his high school club, career as that anchor that holds down that back line, which what helped make him an All-American in high school, which, all the accolades that he was able to get in the high school level. But to be able to transition that to college, it's obvious that's something that you did, Kaden. What was it like, Kaden, transitioning from high school and club soccer to college soccer?
It's a lot different. There's a big gap. Going into college, I thought because I was one of the best on the teams that I would walk in and be one of the best. But you're playing against, 30 kids on your team who are also the best on their club team and high school team. So going into college as a freshman, I think there's a lot on your back. You got to earn the respect of your teammates a little bit, but you also have to fight. There's going to be at least 3 or 4 guys that play the same position as you. So you got to fight for that position against older kids, which is difficult. And some of the kids will be 3 to 4 years older. Some will be even 5, 6 years older than you. So it's a big jump from high school to college. The weight difference was huge for me. I went into college maybe 165 pounds. I was fit, but some of the players I was playing against were my height, but 200 pounds. So I
Wow.
had to gain. I spent most of the off season putting on a lot of weight. But yeah, it's a huge jump from those two levels.
I I bet. And that's the thing. That's the thing we hear the most from the athletes that we talk to. We recently also spoke to Jordan Candelaria, who just finished her first complete fall season at Long Beach State. Exact same thing she said. And now, obviously, I know that the boys' game and the girls' game has different facets and different ways. I mean, the game is still the same, but it's always that same thing. It's the fitness. It's being mentally prepared. And honestly, I mean, I don't know, was there anything really that prepared? I mean, soccer wise, mentally and everything, you play the game, right? But was there anything that really could prepare you for what you came in and saw from day one there at, when you stepped onto Fort Lewis's field?
Oh, I don't know. It's a big reality check. Honestly, you think that you're going to go in and be okay and go through the motions and still be good. But yeah, it's a lot. Just with, all the practices, all the meetings, the film sessions, the school. So
Yeah, there you go. I lost you for a second, Kaden. Yeah, and yeah, I know there was a little break there, but yeah, and the thing is, Kaden, is that going in off of that shell shock and just kind of, you obviously learned pretty quick what you were going to need to do, and it shows in what I just said. You obviously, you didn't start your first game, but after that it was, you obviously were a big contributor to that team. You talked a lot about the competition, right, of coming in as a freshman. The competition, there's 3-4 guys, you have a good sized roster that you're competing with. How did you balance competing for a position and being a good teammate and being somebody who's a good supportive teammate to the others? How did you balance that? Because I assume it's, you obviously, for a team to thrive and be successful, you got to be a team. It's got to be that family. How did you balance that?
I think honestly, the competing and the good teammate kind of go hand in hand. So for me personally, I was just a lot more vocal, positively on the field. I think that helped me and pushed me a lot, and kind of showed the coaching staff I can be a positive teammate, but I'm also willing to for that competitive culture. So I think that's a main aspect of it. Other than that, it was a little difficult to keep in your head that you're fighting against three other kids and you got to stay positive for just yourself personally. So that was the most difficult thing, I think.
And once again, I appreciate your honesty, Kaden, because it's not easy. It's not, a lot of times, you're talking about staying positive for yourself as well, while maintaining that positivity for a team. And I think, once again, that mental health portion and mental confidence and really just being able to do that is an important factor, because I think all too many times you read stories, you talk to coaches, you talk to people, other players who've maybe, started playing collegiate sports, and unfortunately there's quite a few that don't make it out of their first, second year, where they decide that it's no longer for them. And a lot of it boils down to, that the mental aspect of it. And, why did I go from being the best player on my team, or one of the best players, to I'm not getting any minutes? Or I am getting plenty of minutes, but am I happy? Is this a good atmosphere? So there's a lot of factors that come into people's minds on top of balancing your school. So I appreciate the honesty with that. And just kind of finishing off with your first year. I mean, once again, you went into as far as the RMAC tournament that year. Obviously didn't win, didn't move on to the NCAA tournament, but your play did stand out, and you did make the RMAC all tournament team in your freshman year. As far as stats, once again, you're playing out of the backfield. And for anybody who watches this, because I encourage anybody, whether you're soccer player, basketball, anybody who's going to play collegiate sports, a lot of it's the same, other than the sports being different. Everything else is pretty much the same. But for Kaden's position in the back, unless you're truly watching or understand soccer and know what the back line brings, what your center back brings, stats aren't a huge thing, other than maybe, goals given up and different things. There's a lot of different factors, but I know you did have your first assist of the season. We were able to watch that game, and we even, kind of did some things with that. What was it like, obviously out of that backfield, getting that first point, as a college freshman?
No, it was great. Like you said, defenders don't get that much accolades at all. So to get an assist against a conference team was great. It was so much fun. That game was so much fun.
And it was fun to watch on our end. I mean, it's like I said, and I mentioned this in another podcast, I try to watch as many games as I can as possible, especially of a lot of our, ID My Athletes. You're an ID My Athlete alumni, and, we continue to work and follow you, and, you're a major part of us. And so we watch you, and yeah, there was a lot of cheering going on here when we saw that assist. And, it's great. And a lot of that, success that you had in that first season, by golly, man, you pushed it on to the second season. Now you mentioned a couple things when you were talking about your first season. I think what probably was a big factor is, like you said, that summer after tasting what college soccer was like, you knew you had to make some changes in terms of your body makeup and what you did. What were some of the things that you took from your first season, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, that you really felt, I got to get stronger, I got to do this. What are the things that you did to really help make that jump to your second season?
Well, I was spending a lot of time in the gym over the summer trying to gain weight, like I said. So I did end up putting on like 20 pounds, um, most of which, well, at least 7 pounds of muscle. So that was a big thing that I think I had to step up. And the other thing was fitness, which I thought I went into my freshman year super fit because that's all I kind of focused on in that summertime. But then I got up there and we did the fitness tests and I passed, but I was definitely not in the top 10 on my team fitness wise. So the two main focuses were gaining weight and fitness.
And it was that experience you got from your freshman year to kind of help lead you in that, and like you said, even now, and we'll kind of touch on this as we move on after your second season, but kind of those things that now off of 2 years that you kind of learn. But, it's great if you're not able to adapt to what you saw the year prior, it's probably pretty difficult, right? To get back on that field. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's if you don't change, I think if you don't change what you need to change, it is very difficult to improve. So
I could see that, and I can only assume, Kaden, and I'll ask you: is this past season as well gave you the first opportunity to go through a spring season before you
mhm.
went to the actual fall, which is where your actual I know you play games in the spring, but your true conference season and everything happens in the fall. What was it like? What was the focus during a spring season as opposed to your fall season? What did that allow you to do and help you improve?
The spring season was very different from the fall. I think it was a main player development season. So we didn't focus too much on the games up ahead. It was more like positioning and based on your certain position. And the coaches would focus more on the certain players more as the team. Um, but it was good. It's the spring season's a time, I think, to get minutes under your belt, and see, the competition, who you would be facing, and it's a big confidence booster, I think.
And that's great. And like you said, a lot of times, especially for your younger players, that's the time you're going to get your minutes. That's your time to show coaches what you can do. But a lot of it is that development phase, like you said, coaches getting to see what they have. Because I assume once the fall season gets going, there's not a lot of time. You're playing so many games during a season that you're practicing, you're doing what you need to do, but you don't have 7 days a week to lift and concentrate on putting on weight and getting yourself ready, correct? So that's a lot that you get to do in the summer and the spring in terms of improvement. So I mean, and it's evident, Kaden, it's evident that everything that you did and that you adjusted with happened. Okay,
Mhm.
so hopping into your second year, which you just finished your fall season of your sophomore year, um, I mean, first and foremost, Fort Lewis themselves had a very successful season. The RMAC is one of the most competitive divisions that there are in Division II sports, and specifically soccer. And that you made it all the way to the NCAA tournament second round this year. But before we talk about that, just kind of you as an individual, Kaden, and what you did, and a testament to how you prepared and got yourself ready. I mean, just kind of give some of those accolades again that you just finished off and you just kind of went with. Second team all RMAC, second team all South region, right? RMAC all tournament. You guys were the RMAC regular season champs. And then, as you from an individual standpoint, I mean, you played a lot of games this year. Aside from maybe any, injuries or anything you had, you started every game that you were available. And now you came across with 2 goals and 2 assists, and you played almost 1,700 minutes. I know that's a lot of stats, a lot thrown out, but for those of you kind of listening, I mean, talk about that jump from year one that was successful, really filling everything out, but you played a lot of minutes to really stepping forward and helping your team move far and making a berth and going 2 rounds into the NCAA tournament. Tell me about the season, Kaden. How was that? What was that difference between that first and second season that you were able to put up just such strong performance?
Yeah, obviously it was a big turnaround from the first season to the second. We didn't do so hot last season, but this season I think we got some transfers. We got a lot of confidence and chemistry within our group. Um, and I mean, as you said, we turned it around big time. But I think a lot of my teammates really believed in what we were doing, just based on like the tactics and the coaching. But yeah, it was a big success for us to go from a losing record to a very successful season. But yeah, I mean, it was it was definitely a memorable season. Just being able to make the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2011. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, it was winning the RMAC, beating the 6-time RMAC champions. It was a great season. So
And that's, being able to have such a successful like that, like you said, there was a lot of things that Fort Lewis did and your team did that hadn't been done in a while, and making the NCAA tournament. Like you said, there was really this team obviously was very focused, and you, aside from just defense or center back, did you just play center back this season? Did you play different positions? How did that work out for you this season?
yeah, I switched actually almost every other game. I switched from center back to outside back. So I would play left back for one game, and the next game I'd be on the starting lineup for center back. So yeah, I never knew what I was going to be playing in that game. So
What did you prefer? Which one did you like? I mean, you played center back the majority of your career. I mean, what did you prefer? Did you like outside back?
I did like outside back, just for the reason that I was able to go up the field, and actually that's where I got all my stats from, which was nice. But I think I was a little more comfortable with center back because that's where I played my whole.
Right. But it's evident that even when you do get moved, you're making things happen. That outside back is still such an important, but it's what gives you that opportunity to now, okay, now I can push up a little further. I don't have to maintain my back line and stuff. So that's great. And it's good to know too that, I mean, I think a lot of times, once again, with athletes is they may get pigeonholed into certain positions in the high school and club level, depending on strength of team and, their own personal, strength and skills. But at the collegiate level, coaches may need you at different positions at any point, right? So I take it you got to be ready regardless and be ready to go. Is that what you did when they moved you to a different position?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, but I mean, you gotta just kind of go out there and do your best, whether you know the position or not. So,
Well, that's good that you're ready. So it sounds like with season three, you never know. You might even move up a little further on that field. But it's obvious that you're doing everything that you need to do. Kind of moving on through that season, and as you made it through the RMAC tournament. I believe you finished second, correct? The RMAC tournament, you were already pretty much going to have that berth into the NCAA tournament. Tell me tell me what it was like being a college athlete, being at Fort Lewis, and hearing your school's name being entered into the NCAA tournament or being selected into the NCAA tournament.
Uh, it was great. It's been a long time since we have entered in the tournament and done well to where we could enter the tournament. So yeah, we had no idea where we were going to play, we were going to play. So, but hearing our name and being able to, just compete in the NCAA tournament it was awesome.
And and that's the pinnacle. That's what you work towards, right? Getting to the NCAA tournament. And it's, it was fun. Obviously we watched that as well. And, you headed into Texas, I believe. Midwestern State is where
Mm-hmm.
your games were. Like I said, you made it into the second round, but the first round was no cakewalk. Am I correct? Just to get to that second round? You, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe heading into that second half where you was the team down 3-0, 2-0,
It's 2-0, yeah.
2-0. I mean, there was a point where it was very, it didn't look like you might move forward, but the team hit another switch. You were a major part of that, and you all were able to make it out of that first round with a win and, be able to stay for that next game. Obviously with that, that second game, it was kind of almost that same flow of kind of got behind the eight ball again, but it was another close game. What was it like competing in the NCAA tournament? Did you feel a difference between competing in that type of tournament composed to any other tournaments that you've played in your career?
Oh yeah, there was a lot that was on the line, obviously. But I think all the other teams came out a little harder um, because their season was coming to an end. There's seniors that are playing that this might be their last game. And actually, in the first round, we played um, a conference team from our conference. So we kind of knew how they would come out, but they hit a switch and they played completely different how we've seen them before. So yeah, the NCAA tournament was a reality check. We were used to kind of dominating possession, but I don't think we did very much.
So you really can't, even when you play a team X amount of times during the season and you have that, wow, here we are, we're seeing them again in the NCAA tournament. It's never the same, right? You, like you said, changes happen. I think sometimes that's the hardest thing is when even if you've beaten a team multiple times during the season, those next games become even more difficult because odds are it's going to be a little, they know now or, but, nevertheless, it was very good to see, how far Fort Lewis went, to watch you on that field, to be able to see how you compete and how you improved from having a strong freshman season to an even, better sophomore season, putting in more positions and just, different things. And, kind of moving from this second season, how do you now, Kaden? Because obviously, it's something that you always think about and are always working towards. How do you improve off of a season like this as a team and as a player? How do you improve from this second season and moving forward into the next year?
I mean, it's going to be tough, but you got to keep your mental health and everything in check. But you just got to keep kind of grinding. Like our team would go out on off days and kind of just kick the ball or take some free kicks. I think it's a lot to do with just your physical well-being and your mental focus, and you just can't let off the gas. So it'll be difficult, but I truly believe that we can do it. We just gotta kind of do the same thing that we did last year. So.
And what are some of the areas that you personally would like to improve on? Obviously from first to second year, I got to bulk up. I got to get bigger. I got to compete with I mean, you're a man, but 23, 24-year-old man, what are the things now that upon maintaining that, what are the parts of your game that you really would like to improve on moving forward into this upcoming year?
Honestly, it would probably be my communication with the team. I would like to be more upreading and positive to the team, and kind of show a positive leadership role. Because there was moments where, maybe we're down a couple goals and head drops, and but I would like to just our team as well as me, specifically me, to just be more positive and uprooting.
Once again, and then this has been the theme of this interview too, is your honesty, and that's the thing that I think I and anybody who watches this can appreciate, because it's it's self-reflection. It's so easy to feel like there's nothing you need to change, that there's nothing that needs to be different, and especially within ourselves, right? It's easy to say, oh, the team needs to do this, the team, I mean, I'm great. To me, those are the signs, everything that you said, those are the signs of a true leader. You've always been a leader, through all your teams, but it's that continued understanding that what are those things that could be the difference between us finishing off in the second round and next year we're heading into the national championship game, or, because it's not easy for anybody who thinks, oh, teams can just make it back there every year. It's never easy, right? There's always things that happen, you never know, but that self-reflection that you do, that's great. And I think it really also shows that a lot of times, aside from your soccer skills and your physical aspects, there's that mental part, right? There's that self-care, that self really looking deep within and saying, how do I improve? So, no, that's great. And I mean, we're of course going to continue to follow and watch you in that, and, very excited. Obviously you got another spring coming up, so gives you a great chance to self-develop in those areas. And that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And, and kind of as we kind of get to the end of this, Kaden, one of the things like we keep talking about, as you can kind of get from my flow, we talk about you and then kind of how it relates to others, right? And what are some of those tips, Kaden? Obviously you've been through 2 seasons already, through a spring, through 2 regular seasons, different things, learning your difference. What are some of the biggest tips that you would give for any athlete heading into play, who wants to play or is going in to play college athletics?
Yeah, I think the 2 main things that I focused on, or you should focus on, would be fitness and communication. Fitness, especially because that's the first thing you usually get tested on when you get up to college. And that's kind of to see if you're, fit enough to play in the games. And, but I think communication is the big other one. Just going in, even though you're going to be a freshman or maybe a transfer, going in and being vocal towards your teammates and positively is a big, big part of the game that coaches, I think, react to the best. Like just going in and, moving your players around and acting as if you're a leader. I think, yeah, that's the best way to catch a coach's attention.
So it's that confidence, right? Mm-hmm. It's having that, even though and be honest, is it scary stepping in at the beginning with players who've been there, done that?
Yeah, it's very intimidating.
Perfect word.
One of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because you've been there, done that at a different level, which that was the level you played at before. And for those, once again, anybody who may not be familiar with Kaden Schufft, Kaden's played overseas. He's played a part of teams at the club level that played at the national championships. I mean, state cup wins. Kaden's played at a high level his whole career since he was a very young player. So it really shows that, when you get to that next level, there's just no seamless slide in and everything is still, you're kind of starting back at the below, and you got to show not only your coaches, you got to earn the trust and respect of your teammates. correct?
Yeah.
And was that tough, Kaden? Was that
Um,
how did you feel? How do you feel you earned the respect of your teammates?
oh, it was tough to earn the respect. Obviously, getting a little playing time helped, but it's it's hard, but it's good. Coming in as a freshman, you get you're a freshman and you get treated a little differently. But it's, I don't know, it's different to go into a team and be like the best that you can be. You'll get treated a little different, but it's like a built-in fraternity. So they'll treat you a little differently because you're younger and unmature a little bit, but it's all for the good cause, I think. But yeah,
It's all about the growth, right? The maturation process.
yeah,
Everybody, they've been there, done that. There's no ill will. It's really kind of getting you involved in that team and moving forward. And I guess one of the last things I'll ask you too is now you're going to be, while you're going to go into the spring, your sophomore year, but when you're going to be a junior, now you're going to be an upperclassman by the time you get to your next fall season here later this year, right? What are some of the things you're hoping you can pass on to some of these younger players who have committed to Fort Lewis or who were freshmen themselves at Fort Lewis and looking to build off? What are one of the things you're looking to hope to pass off as a leader to those guys?
um, confidence. I think the one big thing I want to help them with is just gaining confidence, because that's a very hard thing to develop when you're in college. And I've seen it firsthand. And I think confidence is a big way to level up your game and get you to play to where you're comfortable. So that's the one thing I think I would want to pass on. Um, yeah,
No, and that's perfect. And that goes along with your wanting to improve with communication and being, helping that allow you to be an even greater leader and for those that look up to you and have seen you play or want to see you play. And, that's a big deal. And is there anything that we didn't cover or anything as we wind down that you want to say anything?
I don't think so. Other than, I mean, you just gotta keep your head up, keep going. You can't let off the gas. So that's pretty much it.
Well, as always, we appreciate your time and even greater than that, we appreciate this information, Kaden, because once again, you've been there, you've done that. And to hear your honesty and to hear, it's very refreshing and it's something that, like, once again, we want these athletes to be able to hear and know, look, you can go in, you can be very successful, like a Kaden Schufft, like a Jordan Candelaria, like, others from New Mexico who've gone on, or from any state who've gone on from, I guess what we can consider smaller communities to be very successful. But they also got to know that there's challenges and, it's remain confident, right? Remain strong in your roots and you'll be all right and everything will be good. So, once again, we have, we're very happy to have with us again, Kaden Schufft. He's a sophomore with the Fort Lewis Skyhawks. Just recently, came out of the NCAA, Division II NCAA tournament, numerous accolades. This young man is doing great stuff and sounds like he's on his way towards being a doctor here down the road in his future as well. So knowing, I've known Kaden for the majority of his life. He is somebody. He's very close. He's like family. So it's a pleasure to watch this young man do what he is doing and be a great role model, not only to my kids, but kids throughout New Mexico and Colorado and, across the country. Once again, definitely keep Kaden Schufft. Keep his name, look out for him, pull up Fort Lewis Skyhawk, watch their games. It's fun to watch, especially if you're an athlete. I've said this before. If you're not watching, if you want to play college soccer, you want to play college basketball, college football, and you're not watching those sports at the collegiate level, you're missing out. you're missing out. You need to know what it's like. It's not going to be the same as high school and club soccer, but that's why we have Kaden Schufft here with us to let us know here's what you got to do to be successful. So once again, Kaden, thank you, my man. We appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, you got it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the ID My Athlete podcast. Once again, Happy New Year. And Kaden, we're definitely going to visit again here down the road so that we can kind of keep tabs on you. And once again, thank you, everybody.